Hello, and welcome back to another video by the Smash Scotland content team. I'm Molly, and today I'll be talking about some of the Scots making their way down to the second biggest UK tournament ever, Regen 2023. I'll be covering some hidden bosses, bracket threats, and some that could even go all the way, so strap in and get ready, it's gonna be a good one. Starting us off with some hidden bosses, we have Lumen in at seed 189. This Rob main knows his character and is ready and waiting to take your stock at ridiculously early percents. Seeded to go 3 and 2, his round 1 is Iron Dan, a fox from Ireland, into his round 2 Ramboss. If Lumen beats Ramboss, he's got to play Tigerton to make it out winner's side of pools, and if he loses, he's playing Sir Fresh the Roy from Norway. After this, he goes on to play Big Z, the hero from the Midlands, in losers round 3, and then Parsnip the Meta Knight to make it out of pools loser's side. It's been shown before that Lumen can be a thorn in many people's sides out of region, and he's performed well before in England, namely his run at King of the Hill 5, where he beat Achilles and Lito to get 4th. Lumen is a scary prospect for any Ultimate player to face, and he will definitely be one to watch to make upsets at Regen. Moving on, we have Bonnie Swag Money, or MikuFan 2009, who is seeded 179th. Known for her signature K-Rule and DK, we don't talk about the gunner. She is also seeded to go 3 and 2, with her round 1 Rabbit 1 and Isabel from the Netherlands, which I'm sure she's extremely happy about, into Cool Kings, a link from London. If she's able to win that, she plays Lord to make it out of pools winner's side. If she loses to Cool Kings, her losers round 2 is Lion, and then her losers round 3 is TF the Terry. If she wins that one out, she then moves on to K2's the Lucas to make it out of pools. Bonnie is another competitor who has garnered a lot of respect from the English crowd, and even with some tough matchups ahead of her, she is a competitor that could easily go on to make a great run. In at seed 168 we have the retired veteran himself, Ruthless. Don't be fooled though, as even in his retirement this man is a threat to anyone thinking that they might have an easy bracket path. His round 1 is Yaska into Zeroya the Pyro and Mithra. If he can win that, he goes on to play Bruhu to make it out of pools. But if he loses to Zeroya, he plays Big Man Ornstein and then has to play Defung to make it out. Ruthless is a tough one to talk about, as sometimes he'll play some of the most solid ultimate you'll ever see, and other times he'll just decide to pick Ridley. However, he's definitely not one to be counted out. With his incredible win over Tigerton at New Era 3, he has proved that he can take sets over the UK's best. Up next, we have everyone's favourite honourable mention and tournament organiser, Kiwi. In at seed 140, this Puff player is the definition of a hidden boss. With Regen being his first large out-of-region tournament, he has the opportunity to ruin many people's runs and make a good run himself. In his round 1 he plays Gaia, not the Steve, the Little Mac player, into Jan, who is 3rd on the Israeli PR. If Kiwi wins, he then has to play former 8th in the EU Flow. And if Kiwi loses to Jan, he has to play XDTL into Dub2Wub and then Marissa to make it out of pools. And with his recent 3-0 over Regenix and a close 3-2 last hit loss to Lito, he's shown that he can keep pace with some of the UK's best. One thing's for sure, if he catches you rolling, you're gonna be hating. Next up, we're moving on up to our bracket threats. These are players that could definitely make a huge upset or go for deep runs at Regen. Aurora, who is seeded 83rd, is supposed to make it out of pools. Green Beans into round 2 Chandog, and then her winner's semis of the pool against Dutch Dio. If she wins that, she makes it out of pools, but faces an uphill battle against Sweden's #1 player, the Schmixty, known for his Mii Gunner, Yoshi, and Wolf. This player will be a tough adversary for Aurora to get by. If she ends up losing to Dutch Dio, she has to play MFH to make it out of pools, where she then has to play Mokka, and is then seeded to fall to Carnage the Peach from London for 65th. If she makes the run into top 64, she has to play Melee Megron, the current Danish #2. With Aurora's recent commitment to maining Greninja, she could definitely be a tough opponent for anyone in her bracket path. But who knows, maybe we'll see the Ganon come out if things get dire. Our 63rd seed today is Nathan BC, a player that is constantly making great runs in Regen. He'll vanish for weeks only to come out the woodwork and win a monthly, beating Lito and other big Regen names in the process. Nathan is also very consistent and can definitely outplace his seed this regen. He is seeded to make it out of Pool's winner's side, playing Roovy Groovy into Nikonos. He then comes up against Elwin the Dutch Pac-Man to make it out winner's side. With all the Pac-Man XP that he does have, it shouldn't be too much trouble. Getting out of pools, Nathan then goes up against the UK's number 2 Loogie. If he loses, he plays Henry K then Frisky Sisson. If he's able to make the upset, he then faces solo into Primplop into Mr. R if all goes as planned. With a bracket filled with characters that Nathan has plenty run-ins with, this bracket is looking like one that he could reasonably deal with, at least up to solo. I mean, who the hell plays Rosa anyway? Benethin sits just one seed above his compatriot Nathan at seed 62. Benethin starts his run against Pengs, then moves on to Chains and then on to Yuffie, a strong Dutch Ryu player to make it out of Pool's winner's side. If he wins, he goes on to play Space, third on the Dutch PR and a Pithra player. If he loses, he's got to play Francie, a top EU joker and former third on the Israel PR. However, if Francie gets the early upset versus Azalea, we could see Ben versus Azalea for top 64 losers. If Ben makes it to top 64, he is seeded to lose to Honeyo the Inkling. However, if he wins, Ben then has to play VINS, the current 34th on the French PR. How many spots even are there on the French PR? If Benethin is able to make that incredible upset, we could see a team kill against Kerbo. The Labber and the honest working man himself Jodgers comes in next at the 57th seed. He has a first round bye, then plays DK Ho, Nico and then Ikan the Ryu to make it to top 64 winner's side. If Ikan gets the better of him, he then goes on to play Cool Kings for top 64 losers, where he would then face Joy-Kong. A DK lover himself, Jodgers should feel comfortable in this monkey madness of a matchup. If he takes the victory, his run just gets harder, being projected to go up against Curry Governor. Jodgers is one of the hardest workers in the scene, and not just at his job. If there's something to lab, you can be sure he's labbed it. Jodgers is a ticking time bomb, and when it explodes, you might as well be playing Tweak. The lid is being closed on the can of beans as MazeBeans is fighting an uphill battle without the use of his beloved Steve. However, this man's pockets run deeper than the Mariana Trench, and you shouldn't be surprised if you see 5+ characters pop up across his run. At seed 52, Maze is seeded to make it out of Pool's winner's side, beating Jackie and then James 102, a strong Roy from Ireland. James is already a tough competitor, and if he wins, he goes on to play Modsai, who he has beaten before, although with Steve. If he loses, he has to play Rykos, the best puff in Norway, into Slipknot the Wario from Germany. With his lids and Kiwi experience, he should be able to take it. If he does, his path looks like Jezzo into SBF and then Flow. Even without Steve, MazeBeans is a scary competitor. Whether it's his Banjo, Aegis, Mario or countless other pocket characters, you best believe he has the character for any situation. Time to beat the carried accusations? We'll have to wait and see. At 44th seed we have Lids. Lids is seeded to play Venom and then IOPPPPPO to make it out of Pools, a Norwegian Rob main known for his technical abilities. If he makes it out of Pools, he goes up against fellow Wario main SBF. In this situation we could see the Diddy or even the Meta Knight come out if he doesn't feel like playing the Ditto. If he wins, he then plays Orion the French Wolf, but if he loses to SBF, he plays Wombat into Kodiak into Elite Tweet. If he triumphs there, he then plays Curry Governor into Lancelot, the Finnish number 1. A bit of a wild card. You never really know how Lids will do at an out-of-region event. However, he is certainly not to be counted out, as you very well may find yourself with your stock being stolen like a fart in the wind. Moving on to our top 2 seeds, these are some players who have proven themselves many a time out of region, and can be expected to make good runs going into Regen 2023. The out-of-region buff himself, Octave, is seeded 33rd this regen. He first plays Flory, and then Regenix, a strong Mega Man, to make it out of Pools. To make top 64 winners, he then needs to beat Giggles the Falcon. If he beats Giggles, he then plays Bloom, a run back from MCGQ, or if he loses, he plays Solid Gamer for top 64 losers. In top 64, he's seeded to play Zanati into Hope, Denmark's number 1 player. If he wins, he then has Shanique into Orion. Octave is a player that has shown time and time again why you should never underseed him. One thing's for certain, if you have this yellow pizza on your bracket path, you you can't relax for a single moment. Finally, our top seed this tournament, Kerbo, it's seed 26. Kerbo was seeded to play Thompson Wild the Ganon round 1, into It Me the Diddy to make it out of pool's winner's side. He's then seeded up against Zone the Palu, a matchup which Kerbo has shown great proficiency in, to make winner's side top 64. Raffalo meets him on winner's side, a very tough opponent for anyone. If he loses, he's then seeded to play the Dutch Dio and then Vins. If he wins, he then plays Pele into Longo into a run back with Raffalo to try his shot at top 8. Kerbo has shown us his prowess many a time, and has let us know loud and clear that he can compete with the UK and EU's best. Also, with his new secondary of Aegis, who knows how deep his run could go? Either way, it's going to make for some very interesting sets that you won't want to miss. With Regen only being a couple of days away, hopefully this video has given you a good idea of how some of our favourite Scots could do at this stacked tournament. Don't count out some of the lower seeds either, as there are many in this video that I haven't talked about that have the ability to make a cheeky upset here and there. We wish everyone heading to Regen a great weekend, and everyone watching at home an amazing viewing experience. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to keep hearing about Smash Scotland news. Molly out.